Good afternoon, everyone. We have another great webinar prepared for you today, centered around Salesforce licensing and pitfalls. Before we get started, we have a couple housekeeping items to take care of. First, we will be recording this session and it will be distributed at the conclusion of this webinar in a follow-up email, so be looking out for that. And lastly, we want to encourage participation throughout the webinar. All questions will be anonymous, so if you have any during the presentation, please type them into the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. If we don't get to your questions immediately, we will address it at the end during the question and answer portion of the presentation. That wraps up the announcements. We hope you enjoy this Salesforce licensing webinar, and we'll hand it over to Avinash and Michael for introductions.
Yeah, Alex, thanks a lot. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to the folks in the East Coast. So we're excited to present Salesforce licensing webinar to the folks here. This is probably the list of seminars which you're working on, and Salesforce will be one of those, along with some few coming up as well. Just quickly to introduce myself, I will be kind of just working with Michael over here on this presentation, but quickly give my background. I have been working in the SAM industry and licensing industry for about 10 plus years now, and I have experience in working with IBM, Microsoft, Oracle, and of course Salesforce is now the most upcoming product as well. Been with this firm for about 7 plus years now as well, and working with different product lines over here. I'll let Michael introduce himself quickly as well.
Hi everyone, I'm a senior consultant here at AnglePoint. I specialize in Salesforce contracts, customization, optimization. I used to work at Salesforce, so I have some intimate knowledge in terms of how they work their contracts, what they look for, and any gotchas. I'm also a Salesforce certified administrator, as well as working on a lot of Salesforce process improvement and efficiency optimization suggestions for customers.
Thanks, Michael. So quickly, I'll spend quick, maybe less than 30 seconds on who we are. So AnglePoint basically is a global services firm focusing on software optimization and software license management and compliance. Basically, we are based in Santa Clara, California, with offices across US and globally in London and Germany, and of course in Asia as well, with some presence. In terms of the practice areas, we focus on some of these important aspects of SAM, which include SAM program, SAM tooling, software publishing, licensing, and SAM managed services. So from a SAM perspective, we definitely offer a lot of services around SAM program, right from procurement to implementation and to end of life. We have wonderful partners whom we work with in terms of the SAM tooling, and we help our customers implement the tools as well as help them optimize and manage as well. And then, of course, we have from a publisher perspective, we have a couple of more expertise around IBM, Microsoft, Oracle, but also some of the more lesser knowns like Adobe, Attachment, Micro Focus as well. And then, of course, we do provide a lot of SAM managed services, and we manage the program for our big customers. Just want to give you a highlight of what we can really bring to the table. So moving on, we want to focus on Salesforce today. Salesforce has become one of the top spenders of a lot of our customers whom we work with, and we wanted to make sure we spend some time talking about licensing, what the product looks like, and how really you can manage it, and how AnglePoint can bring their expertise to the table here as well. Feel free to kind of post questions, as Alex mentioned. We'll try to get to them as we're talking, or at the end when you have 15 minutes left, and in the end. Moving on to the first topic about Salesforce licensing. If we can see the different products we generally Salesforce would sell to all of their customers. There are a couple of clouds which you would see a Salesforce person coming in talking to you about: Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Health Cloud, App Cloud, and Community Cloud, Analytics Cloud, some of the other clouds as well. So all these clouds kind of make customers really kind of confused as to why there are so many clouds, and what from an aspect of what the use case particular to the organization, which clouds really fits best to them. And this is a common question which we get from our customers: if, hey, will a marketing cloud work for me versus Service Cloud, and what are the requirements there? And really what we wanted to highlight was over here was there are a number of clouds out there, but the actual cloud, or the base cloud, which we'll get into here quickly, is the really top the first three, which really are the basis for everything else as well. So Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and Marketing Cloud really are the key aspects of a Salesforce product, which whenever a customer buys. And as you've seen the next slide over here, which at this point I kind of, I want to transition over to Michael, who's obviously our SME on this product line. But really, if you are buying Salesforce, you would kind of buy one of these clouds in the back end, and then really the other products are built on top of this, which we will talk about it a little bit in our slides going forward. So with that, I'll just hand over to Michael, and we'll go to the other slides from here onwards.
Yeah, thanks, Avinash. As he mentioned, that there are three fundamental clouds: Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and Marketing Cloud. Each one serves its kind of different purpose, but they serve as the fundamental basis for your Salesforce usage. So we'll talk about the first one, Sales Cloud. This one is probably the most common in the market. This is kind of what they're famous for. It's the CRM, quote unquote, customer relationship management. So this focuses on your leads, accounts, contacts, contracts, opportunities, products, pricing, quotes, anything basically related to the sales process, end to end, from basically your pre-sale, your leads, all the way through closure. So this will track anywhere from phone calls, emails, opportunities that you generate up until the closure of an account, as well as post sale, managing the kind of the sales process throughout. And it's designed, as kind of I just mentioned, an end-to-end basically for the whole entire sales process. And on the screen, you can see kind of they've built a life cycle and a flow for each activity and each section. So it helps track sales for each customer and each account. And then moving on, Service Cloud is their other offering, which is tailored towards the customer service side or the service side of customers. This is for any usage related to service calls, whether it's emails, whether it's phone calls, at any kind of web to case. So if you're logging any support issues, this is typically the cloud that you would want from a Salesforce perspective. This allows also you to give documentation on their websites to help your customers self-serve, learn different products or learn different aspects of your business. Service Cloud will power that. It also gives kind of this console view that you see on the right-hand side, so that if you do have a service department, they would be using this to answer calls, log activities, as well as kind of use this as a fundamental basis to get a holistic view of their customer interaction. And moving on to Marketing Cloud. Marketing Cloud, this is kind of where it differs from the first two clouds, because Marketing Cloud actually was an old product called ExactTarget. It's built on the fundamental basis of customer journey. So email, mobile, social media, web personalization, content creation, and management. Marketing Cloud will allow you to use drip campaigns to communicate to your customers, as well as help you track this usage. So you're finding great ROI on your marketing emails, your marketing campaigns, and figuring out ways to help increase that efficiency so that you're reaching the customers in an efficient way, as well as getting the responses and the call to actions that you're looking for. So this is kind of key to Salesforce itself. Their licensing is very, it would seem that it's simple, but it's slightly complex because the fundamental basis of their licensing in terms of pricing would be user-focused and license-focused in terms of each user would need a specific license to access their system. But as you can tell on the screen, Sales and Service Cloud predominantly use users as a number of users as a way to license. But for Marketing Cloud, it can be in any combination of logins, contacts, emails, total emails. It just would depend on the product. There's also other products we're not mentioning in terms of like Force.com or Platform. They're also user-based. But this is kind of the key differential that kind of Salesforce separates itself from others, is that you can have a combination of all of these on your contract, so it becomes a little bit complex, and it's hard to decipher which exactly license type in terms of whether it's users, logins, contacts, relates to a specific product.
Right, and just to add on to Michael's point here, right? Users is obviously the key aspect of Salesforce licensing, but also, it is how much users you have bought in the start of your contract, and not necessarily, if they're logging in. It's any individual user licenses which you buy. You can buy 500, 1,000, 10,000, whatever the number it is, but you pay for those licenses, and obviously the idea is when the customer buys that, or when your organization is buying that, you are actually going to use so much of number of licenses, really. So that number of users becomes an important number, not only for for you to track, but also you would be renewing licenses or paying your dollar values based on that going forward every time whenever you renew it. And then when you come to marketing, of course, the Marketing Cloud, the number of logins, contacts, emails, the number of emails you send out to your contacts from your marketing perspective, that throws in a mix of licensing in there, which obviously from a contractual perspective, you have to keep a track of it, and making sure that if you're hitting those limits, you need to buy more, and you need to buy less if you're not using that as well. So this kind of starts putting a lot of things which a customer has to track or organization has to track as to how this will be monitored and used as well, right? But not only this, based on what we understand, the users and the contacts emails is obviously the top layer part of the licensing. But as you go to the next slide, which Michael will take over from here as well, you got to focus on some of the specific aspects around what kind of editions you buy, and within those editions, if you are really fully utilizing those licenses for which you're paying dollars, every year, and that's where we want to kind of make sure we spend some time talking to you about that.
Yeah. So as you can see on the picture on the right-hand side, there are multiple different editions. So Group, Professional, Enterprise, Unlimited. Think of it as kind of Hondas or Toyotas versus Mercedes or Porsches. What they want to do is they want to encompass all different features in each edition so that they force you to buy a specific edition. The caveat is that unlike car enthusiasts out there, you can't really take a Honda engine and put it into a Mercedes body, or vice versa. You can't take a Porsche engine and put it into a Honda body. So what they do is they bundle a bunch of different features in each specific edition. So you have to be sure that the specific functionality that you're looking for and is applicable to your business is in the correct edition, and as well as you're utilizing all the other different features within that specific edition. The main caveat on the bottom that I have highlighted is that some editions actually can be purchased a la carte, or you have to make sure that whatever edition that you're thinking about purchasing, that functionality is within that edition.
Yeah, good point, Michael. So I think the idea here is obviously this all depends on organizations' use and understanding of what features and licensing is important to them and what they're planning to use it in the future and when they buy the license. Obviously, buying an unlimited license will give you an door to using all the licenses which features which you can or which you plan to use. But if you buy a certain feature set which you're not going to use it for the first 3 years or 4 years, it's really not going to be helpful for organizations to really pay money for that, because the moment you buy into a feature set of a particular license, you will end up paying for that in terms of your pricing and renewals, and of course the contract as well as when it comes into effect. So I think the key is obviously every organization has to understand what are they looking to do with their Salesforce product. If they have a specific use around marketing or a specific use around Service Cloud, have to work with their internal teams and really get to the bottom of what feature sets you need and what features they're going to use in the coming future use, which you can then obviously start tracking that as well in terms of usage. And obviously, if there's certain options out there, as we just pointed out, a la carte may make sense in some cases, but necessarily, it's not necessary that every case a la carte may work or a bundle may work. It just depends on every business use case, every organization, and we just have to work with the teams to get a real sense of what products or feature sets really is going to help you to kind of better drive your value.
And one thing is that across your contract, you cannot have multiple different editions. So it's basically an all or nothing. So if you need, say, custom app development and it's only an enterprise, you can't have, and you have multiple organizations or multiple contracts, you can't have one contract that has enterprise and another contract that has professional edition. You would need all of your contracts or all of your organizations on one specific edition. And that would actually lead us to other gotchas. Some of the things to watch out for Salesforce editions is that there's kind of two types, technology as well as contractual. So some of the technology limits that Salesforce doesn't necessarily vocalize or makes public knowledge would be API limits per day or per month. There is a certain limit that they allow between your third-party applications. That will actually be restricted once you hit that limit. They will not allow any more calls. Another thing that they limit per edition would be custom objects, custom profiles. So this would kind of be related if you have a very, very complex organization that needs a lot of customization. Salesforce does a good job that allows you to kind of plug and play, to kind of activate and then use their standard templates. But there's a lot of times where you have to create custom objects to tailor it towards your business and make it more efficient. As well as if you have a lot of different roles, you would need custom profiles to restrict views and kind of limit field level security. So that would also tie into kind of the limits of page layouts. So you only want certain things displayed for certain people at certain times. And another area that they like to focus on is storage, whether it's file or data. There is a certain limit per user that Salesforce would allocate. But once you hit that limit or you go over, they will come back and say, hey, you went over the limit. Please pay us more. Well, not really please, but pay us more for the additional data that you've used. And this will actually relate to kind of your contractual negotiations, because those add-ons that you would have to pay for going over on storage, this would not really be taken into consideration during your renewals contracts and the discount prices that you would have per license. So this creates kind of a very complex environment throughout the course of your life cycle, which would generate the need for a creation of organization management, especially if you have multiple organizations or multiple contracts. You would want to have a governance in place or a center of excellence to help manage this whole process, which would relate to the user management process in terms of allocation of users, managing user access, managing total users, and kind of the whole ecosystem of Salesforce.
Right. No, great point, Michael. I think before we hit more on that, I think there's a great question which has got posted. The question is, can you scale down from an unlimited license to an enterprise license?
So what Salesforce does very, very well is in the middle of your contract, you cannot make any negative changes to your contract or your additions. So the direct answer to your question is that you can move from unlimited to enterprise, but the only time you can make that change is upon renewal, and you can only kind of ask for that change during the renewal process, which is the last 90 days of your contract, but the actual switch will not happen until your new contract starts. And Salesforce is extremely against downgrading additions, so they will do their best not to allow that in a very streamlined process.
Right. Thanks, Michael. I think, and that's obvious. It is obviously in Salesforce not best interest to have that, and obviously that's why it's important to have a robust process around basically the fact that what Michael just spoke about in terms of license management and governance. Often what we've seen is customers have different business units, and obviously due to the mergers or acquisitions, we see a lot of our customers having a huge Salesforce presence in their environment, and the idea is that different business units have their own Salesforce org instances. Obviously, it's important for a customer to get hold of all their instances and try to make sure that you have one common agreement across those, just because it helps you to get a better price point. But not only that, from a management perspective, it's important for you to understand what you're using. To our previous point, in order to make the right decisions around what licenses to buy, what feature set, and what profiles you need to have, obviously have a good hold and understanding of your different sales orgs within the environment, and then making sure you talk to everybody in the team as to, in terms of usage, what kind of products they're using and what feature sets. That just helps you really get a good understanding of what licenses you need to renew in terms of going forward. And that's why in terms of license management, I think having a key governance process around the Salesforce org, the usage, and not only that, but also from a user management perspective, which users are allocated what kind of licenses and who is using what kind of feature sets. That kind of becomes a key important aspect of Salesforce licensing. And that's where we see a lot of optimization points for our customers. And obviously, in some cases, you need to buy additional licenses, which is what even we kind of work with our customers on, because you are hitting those thresholds of those particular products or feature sets which you need to buy more. So it just becomes more and more important to manage this entire org and to manage the entire user management process.
And actually relating back to the question, so in terms of additions, they will not allow any changes until the end of the contract, but it also relates to users. So you're not able to make any negative changes to your contract in relation to users. So what Salesforce will do is, if you have, let's say, 1,000 users and you're contracted for 1,000 users and you paid for 1,000 users, but then in the middle, like say 6 months into your contract, you say, oh, I don't need 1,000 users, I only need 500. And you want to go to Salesforce and say, let me reduce my contractual obligation from 1,000 to 500 and get a refund. What Salesforce would say is, you're not eligible to make that reduction until the end of your contract. So basically, it's kind of like a gym membership. You're paying for it, and if you choose to use it, great. If not, then Salesforce is basically taking money away from you. But you want to optimize your usage and optimize kind of your user allocation and your user total so that you're maximizing your spend.
So we have another great question, and we can answer that. We can go through it now as well. So the question goes, you mentioned that we cannot combine license additions. Can we not have platform and enterprise on the same contract? For instance, if some users will only need limited access versus full access?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I'm sorry if I made some confusion. So platform and enterprise are kind of two different things. So platform license is related to Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, where enterprise would be kind of the license edition. You can have platform on a Salesforce or on a Sales Cloud contract. They can be all combined, but they would have to be the same edition in terms of professional, enterprise, or unlimited. You can have multiple products across the contract. You can also have limited and full access depending on whether it's Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, platform licenses. You can have limited and full access all on the same contract, but they would have to be the same edition, if that makes sense.
Perfect. I hope that answers the question. So going back to our slides, I think the idea, the key we want to drive on this slide was basically, there are certain limitations in terms of the technology usage and how you can use the licenses, and it's just important to understand that and track that, like in case of any other product. But it just becomes more important in case of Salesforce because it's just it's more of optimizing and understanding how to track that rather than just just using a normal license as compared to the users versus number of emails, but also understanding at the bottom what really they're using from aspect of licensing. If you move on to the next slide, I think we want to highlight the fact that here at Angle Point, we are working with a lot of our customers in helping them really optimize Salesforce licensing, and this really is to the point of what you went over in our previous slides. I think the idea here is when you're looking to buy a license, then it is it's important to understand first from your business owners as to what they are looking for in terms of Salesforce usage and exactly what their requirements are going forward. And that's why you need to really spend a lot of time in terms of planning and understanding before you even start getting into buying some product. What we at Angle Point have been working with our customers is really exactly doing that in case your renewal is coming up, and then helping you really track your usage. We have obviously our methodologies where we follow in terms of tracking your usage of licenses, as well as understanding your contracts as well. There are a lot of nuances within contracts which the customer has to understand before signing up for renewal, and we go through that as well during our process and help them really work on those aspects as well. But not only that, but we also get to the aspect of then going through and working with the different business units and really figuring out what they're using in terms of feature sets, in terms of profiles. Really going back to what Michael mentioned in our previous slides, it's key to understand the functionalities, because a license which you're buying unlimited, maybe $100 per month, versus a feature set which is not required, and you can pay a lesser license for like say roughly $70 per month for that particular user. That will add up over the years for a number of users, and obviously if you do the math, you could save that amount of money there for your organization. And then that's really the key message which we want to drive here as well. And from a reporting standpoint as well, of course, we make sure we help you in report and help you drive that value as well. But also we work with you in terms of your management of licenses if you need to help more drive the business value in terms of yearly contract renewals and all those things. So if you want to move on to the next slide, before we kind of come up to our Q&A session, want to highlight quickly about some of our upcoming events. We will be releasing our blog on Salesforce Licensing shortly. Here, in fact, by tomorrow it should be out. The webinar is recorded as mentioned earlier, so we will share that out as well with everybody. In the coming few weeks, we have a couple of more seminars which we have or webinars which we have planned. SAM and security is one of the webinars coming up. We all know that SAM and security are coming together more and more. The idea here is to understand you can secure your environment if you know what you have. So SAM plays a big role in security. So we have a webinar coming up on that. I hope you all can join us for that as well. And a quick point as well, Angle Point is now offering trainings. If you are looking for some kind of trainings around SAM, ITAM certifications or any mainframe trainings, please feel free to reach out to us, and we will make sure we can put it in touch with the right people on our side of the house. Having said that, I think we can open up if anybody on the webinar has any questions. Feel free to post it on the Q&A deck. I know we had a couple of them coming and we were able to answer, but we'll keep it open here for a few minutes if people have more questions, which they can pop in here. All right, we should be available even post our webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to post it through our links or through our marketing channel, which Alex will quickly talk about here. But thank you for everybody. Thanks for your time, and make sure if you have any questions, again, you can reach out to us. Alex, do you want to take over?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Avinash and Michael, for that great presentation. And we want to thank you all for joining us today. As Avinash just said, if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to them directly through email at info@anglepoint.com or through our website. That is it from us. Thank you again for attending, and we will see you next time.